Rob Dauster here. I got Jeff Goodman with me.
Hell no.
John Fate.
Are we still live?
Field of 68 till I die.
I'm sorry, man. I blacked out.
Randolph Children.
DJ Khaled, you know the big DJ Khaled guy?
Hansbrough up and in.
Goodman needs to be fired all the time.
Josh Pastner.
You're going to beat people straight up.
You know the deal.
Drink responsibly tonight. I'll be drinking with you.
Jerel, McNeal.
From the bluest of the blue bloods to the smallest of the mid-majors.
This is Field of 68 after dark.
Hello and welcome to a very, very special edition of Field of 68 After Dark. Thanks for making us a very small part of what was a packed Saturday in college basketball. The first weekend without football in 6-7 months, and college basketball absolutely delivered. We got rivalry games. We got coaches getting ejected. We got 3 top 10 matchups. We got a lot to get to on the show today. Catch us on YouTube, SiriusXM, Twitch, X, everywhere that you get Field of 68. We are here. We are live. I'm John Martin, joined tonight. We're going 4 wide, guys. We got Jeff Goodman. We got Rob Dauster. We got Field of 68 analyst and college basketball Hall of Famer Tyler Hansbrough here in the building tonight, all on the road. A lot to get to, gentlemen. Hope you're doing well. Let's start, guys, with what was one of the best, if not the best, wins in college basketball this season, and that's what Kansas did to Houston. Really quickly, they opened as a home underdog under Bill Self for just the second time ever. They led for 39 minutes, 69% from the field against the number 1 defense in the country, get the win 78-65. Jeff, how dominant was this performance for Kansas tonight?
Incredible. I mean, really was from start to finish. Kansas was absolutely dominant on both ends of the court. I mean, they came out, made 9 of the first 10 shots against a Houston team that, oh, by the way, is the best defensive team in every area and every metric you want to look at. But Kansas got it going early, and then they got the crowd going. And Kelvin Sampson said after the game, he was like, listen, whoever the hell put Kansas as an underdog at Allen Fieldhouse basically screwed us here. And they did, because Kansas, the players knew they needed to win this one. I talked to Dwan Harris after the game, and he said, like, we knew it. We knew people were doubting us coming off some of these road losses to UCF and West Virginia. And they had to make a statement. And they did today, and they did it with Johnny Furphy. Okay? As good as Hunter Dickinson was, as good as the defense was, Kevin McCullough, Johnny Furphy is to the rescue because he's become a dude now. Now you got 5 dudes instead of 4, and that's the biggest difference now with this Kansas team is Furphy was great in the first half, and then you know what they had to do, Houston? They tried to lock him down in the second half, and then everybody else kind of heated up. So Kansas looked like a team to me that maybe if they can get one more dude off the bench to be decent, they could win 6 straight.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing, Jeff, and you were there so you could speak to it, is that this was a strange one in that most analytics and most metrics had this as to be on the road, a pretty decisive win for Houston. So, and I saw you tweet the videos, and honestly, like that atmosphere, how powerful is that? Like just to have that behind you in that environment, you know, how big is that for Kansas? Because it really did. It felt like it carried them today in a lot of ways.
It did. I mean, it's the best atmosphere in college basketball. You know, I was at Duke earlier this year, and while the student section is great at Duke and his media members were on top of the court, we're right there, there's nothing like Allen Fieldhouse. Nothing, period. I know Tyler may fight me on this and say the Dean Dome or something like that, but it's not even close. I mean, Allen Fieldhouse, it's worth like 7 or 8 points, and I'm not even including the refs in this thing. So, again, this Kansas team, totally different at home than on the road, like most great teams. But, again, I feel like they got that extra piece now with Furphy, and they guarded today. They shut down Jamal Shed. They got out in transition. And again, they showed they belong, maybe even at the top. Bill Self said to me after the game, he said, listen, when we're good, when we play like that, we can beat anybody. We showed it. We beat UConn here. Obviously, it was without Stephen Castle, but they beat UConn. They've beaten Kentucky. Now they've beaten Houston. And Kelvin Sampson said, like, listen, if they play like that, like nobody's really beating them.
Tyler, the fact
Jeff,
that Jeff would – yeah, please. I mean, the fact that he would do this on the day that you got honored at the Dean Dome, it feels like a low blow, quite frankly.
Hey, there's no fight for me. I know how good Fog Allen is and their environment and their atmosphere. Nobody wins at Fog. It's the toughest place in college. I will agree with Jeff on that. But the Smith Center tonight was rocking. But anyways, my question, Jeff, is Kansas dominated Houston on the boards tonight. And to me, when I look at it, was this a bad shooting night by Houston, which it shows on the box score as well? Or did Kansas just dominate them on the glass and defensively throughout the whole aspect of the game?
So part of it, Tyler, is that Kansas didn't miss shots. So there just weren't as many, rebounds to be had. Houston came out in the second half and they played harder. They played tougher. But Kelvin Sampson said, I was disappointed with their effort in the first half. They were playing from behind early, and then they started taking some bad shots, frankly. Kansas made some tough shots early, guys that, honestly, Kelvin Sampson wanted them to take some of these shots. They made them. And then it became Jamal Shead just making mistakes. LJ Cryer didn't do anything in the first half. He carried them in the second half. And they had a chance late, and then Parker Brown comes up with the shots of the game. He hits a big three. Bill Self said to me after the game, he's like, I don't think he's made a three all year. I think he's made a couple, but he made a huge one to seal the game, makes a couple free throws the next possession. So that's what they need, though. They need those guys coming off the bench, Marco Jackson, Parker Brown, even Nick Timberlake a little bit, to just give him a little bit, give him some minutes, give him a couple minutes to be able to rest those other guys. Because that starting five can hang and is probably better than anybody in the country, maybe even including UConn, but right there with UConn. Not as good. They're right there with them.
Jeff, I do want to talk a little bit about the other side because I'm trying to work through how to feel about Houston, because on the one hand, the metrics just like slobber over them, like you name it. They just love Houston. And yet when I see them play, at least, today as an example, and then we know they lost to TCU, they lost to Iowa State on the road in their first year in the Big 12. If they don't get a nuclear second half from LJ Cryer, they lose this game by 30. And so help me work through how people should feel. Is this just you run into a buzzsaw at Fog Allen and they're going to win a lot more games and that this team is going to be heard from in March? Or is this perhaps, as we're seeing in the first, 8 to 10 games of Big 12 play, that this Houston team is pretty limited when they actually have to go tit for tat with somebody?
What Kelvin told me afterwards was, listen, I thought we'd lose by 30. Like, looking up with, again, the fact that Kansas did shoot almost 70%. He's like, I can't believe we only lost by 13, and we had a chance there before Parker Brown hit that shot to maybe make it close and put a little game pressure on him. He's not worried about this Houston team because he said, I feel like we're in the mix. Again, in that second tier, in the Big 12, you're not winning a lot of games. He's never won, by the way, here at Fog Allen. Never won. He obviously hasn't played here in a while, but he was at Oklahoma as a head coach. And nobody wins here, really. I mean, look at the numbers. Bill Self wins like 96% of his games at Fog Allen. He wins every game when he's an underdog, other than when they played Baylor a couple of years ago. So I'm not that worried about Houston, but I do think the loss of Terrence Arsenault for the season earlier this year was a blow that is affecting them now because they just don't have quite enough firepower. And one of the things I thought Houston was going to be able to take advantage of today was Emmanuel Sharp on Furphy, and he wasn't able to do that. Furphy played great defense today. He's got length. Yeah. He doesn't have a lot of bulk and strength.
Yeah,
but he did a great job on Sharp. And again, listen, they just need one more dude off the bench to be a little more than they've been, or all three of those guys collectively to be a little better than they've been. But I worry about Kansas in the NCAA tournament, only going 5, 6, maybe 6 deep.
Well, I think the most telling thing about today is that, and this is the luxury of, we were sort of waiting for that fifth starter to emerge for Kansas. The luxury of Furphy going off and coming into his own the way he has is that we haven't even mentioned Hunter Dickinson today. 28-4 against a front line that I, quite frankly, and I was talking about this with Tyler earlier in the week, I thought he would struggle. And to Tyler's credit, he said, no, I don't think he's going to struggle. I think he's going to actually excel. And Hunter Dickinson was freaking brilliant, man. And we're not even talking about him because Furphy kind of came out of nowhere, Jeff, but I thought that was one of Hunter Dickinson's best game as a Jayhawk.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, Hunter played both ends of the courts today. Again, like, he didn't have to dominate, but you could tell he was up for this game and the team was up for this game because right now they've been counted out. Like, a lot of people, I'm sure they're hearing, whether it's me or other people say, like, I don't think they can win the whole thing. And he came out here to prove a point. They came out here to prove a point that, like, Kansas isn't dead. Like, they're not an afterthought when it comes to the top teams in the country in the conversation. And again, when you need a bucket, they went to Hunter and he delivered because Houston's bigs, as tough as they are, Hunter could shoot right over them.
Yeah, I just again, that Houston team is as physical, and as dominant as they come. And Rob, I'd love to get you. I don't know how much of it you were able to see. First of all, it's good to see you. You're just sitting there looking pretty. Welcome to the show. First off,
did you guys hear the guy come up to me and ask for a selfie while I was trying to tell him that we are live on the radio right now? That was an exciting moment right there in live podcast.
We did not hear that.
I do have a take on Houston that I want to fire off, and I want to see what you guys think about this, because I feel like today showed us where Houston's limitations are, in the sense that at the end you get to a certain point, right? And elite offense is always going to end up being able to beat out elite defense. And I think that when you see the moments where Houston isn't able to do what they want to do defensively, where they can't really force the turnovers and they're not getting to the offensive glass and they're not really able to be as physical and muck it up the way that they want to be able to do it, they don't really have an answer for that, right? You have one of your best players, LJ Cryer, go off in the second half, and it doesn't matter. You still lose by 13 on the road. And yes, I know it was Kansas, and yes, I know it was Fog Allen Fieldhouse, but I do think that what we saw today was the problem of kind of building this style and this brand of basketball. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't have success, and that doesn't mean that they can't go out and win. They've been doing this, and I think their last 4 NCAA tournaments have been Sweet 16, Final Four, Elite 8, Sweet 16. Right? So you're able to make it to a certain point, but it's the same thing as, like, we just watched Kentucky here, where when you're not able to guard, you have to be perfect offensively to be able to go out and win games against some of the teams in college basketball. And for Houston, they got to be perfect defensively, or at least close to it, if they want to be able to go out and beat some of the best teams in college basketball, because there's a ceiling to what they are on the offensive end of the floor.
It's a lot of pressure, man. And look, I lived it because, I'm obviously here in Memphis, and when they were in the AAC, I know exactly. Like, I think Kelvin Sampson is probably the best coach that doesn't get the mainstream coverage just because of his conference affiliation the last several years. That's going to change now, and also his life's going to get harder. But it's a lot of pressure when you just don't have that shot creation. And I'm curious to see, sort of after a year, does he change it? Is it something that, and again, it's one loss. Like, I'm not going to penalize somebody for not winning at Fog Allen. Like, that would be a ridiculous thing to do. But it is life in the Big 12, and you're gonna have nights like that. There's no question about it. Look, we got more games to get to. We got a college basketball Hall of Famer who was honored today, and his team got a win. You're watching Field of 68 After Dark. Back after this.
What's going on, guys? Before we get back to the show, I need to let you all know about the Field of 68 Daily, an all-encompassing college basketball newsletter that arrives in your inbox, you guessed it, daily. For less than $1 a week, you'll wake up every morning to more than 1,500 words detailing everything that you need to know to stay up to date on the world of college basketball. From the notable mid-major upsets to the stars that are out injured, to the breakout performances that only our team of college basketball junkies watched. The Daily is edited and produced by Mike Miller, who spent more than 2 decades running NBC's digital written content, and is subscribed by more than half of the Division I coaching staffs, the biggest names in college basketball media, and the agents that work as power brokers in the sport. For just $50 for the year, you get access to the same information that the insiders get. And before we get you back to your regularly scheduled Field of 68 content, let me tell you guys about the Field of 68 merch store. Head over to field68.shop for officially branded Field of 68 apparel. Whether you're supporting your favorite team in the student section or from the couch, there is no better way to gear up than the latest from the Field of 68. The best thing I can say about our merch is the quality of the product. Anyone that has ever worn a t-shirt knows how frustrating it is when the neck gets all stretched out and the bottom of the shirt starts looking like the bottom of bell-bottom jeans. And there's nothing worse than a hoodie that loses its snugness that makes it such a perfect way to stay warm during the cold winter weather. Whether you're shopping for yourself or for the college basketball fan in your life, everything you need is at the Field of 68.shop.
Welcome back to Field of 68 After Dark. We're on Sirius XM. We're on YouTube. We're on X. We are everywhere. We are ubiquitous. We are inevitable. What a Saturday it was in college basketball. Rob Dauster's in Lexington. Jeff Goodman has been at Fog Allen for 15 hours waiting on Bill Self. And Tyler Hansbrough is at North Carolina. He is in North Carolina. And, by the way, was honored today for being a college basketball Hall of Famer. So congrats on that. Really quickly, what a night for the North Carolina Tar Heels, 93-84 over the Duke Blue Devils. They led, just like Kansas, for 39 minutes. Harrison Ingram, I mean, what a night for that young man. 21 points, 5 of 9 from 3. Armando Bacot tied his season high, 25 and 10. And North Carolina really rolled in this one. Tyler, before we get into the game, how'd it feel, man, just coming back and being honored? It must have felt great to get all that love and sort of be in that moment again, huh?
Yeah, thanks, John. It was, it was great to be back in the Smith Center in the environment. The environment was amazing, and obviously all the Tar Heels giving me some love. I really appreciated it. But, to the game, the Smith Center was rocking, and to me, this was probably the biggest win all year. And the reason I say that is because Duke had a lot of preseason hype, and they also have big athletic guards. And, tonight we didn't have to rely on RJ as much. Armando, who has been questioned a little bit throughout the season, and especially with this play, especially after the Georgia Tech loss, he had a huge night. And he dominated the game with his physicality, his rebounding. And I really think that caused a lot of problems for Duke. And also Harrison Ingram, he stepped in, like you talked about, had a big game. And for me, it came down to those two players having huge nights that really sealed the deal. And, to me, the score isn't really a good indication. I felt like we dominated pretty much from the start. And I thought that Duke got a little bit of a run there towards the end, which made it pretty close. But I will say that this team's success relies on their defense. And defensively, I thought we did a great job. We held them to 26% from the three-point line, which was huge. But also, you got to give Seth Trimble a lot of credit. He's come in, and he has guarded the other team's best player night in and night out. And I do feel like, Seth comes in there and, his impact isn't really shown that much on the stat sheet, but you're seeing him get his confidence and starting to add a lot more scoring. And it's just a matter of time before I think he's going to be one of these players that everyone's talking about in the country. His impact defensively has been tremendous, and he is a great example for a lot of young players who don't get the minutes that they want to come in and do the job that the coach wants and let them build trust and confidence in your game. Then you can start sprinkling in other pieces that you want to add. And that's what he's done. He's really embraced the defensive end, locking up the other team's best players. I thought he did a great job on Proctor tonight. Proctor wasn't really that big of a threat, and, he really embraced that. But, yeah, you got to give the Tar Heels credit. I thought Armando and Harrison Ingram, I thought they were too much. We didn't have to rely on RJ. It was a big win for the Tar Heels.
Yeah, on that note, if I would have told you before the game started that RJ Davis was only going to have 17, would you have thought Carolina won the game?
Coming into the game, I thought it was going to be much closer. And the reason I say that is because I still don't think that Duke has really reached close to their potential. And I don't know why they're such a team that scares me in the fact that I think they're a team that really has a lot of growth left in them, because I think they have a high ceiling with a lot of their players. I think they have very talented players. Again, I don't think Jeremy Roach gets a lot of credit for what he does for this team. I think he's been kind of one of these underrated pieces. He's a tough player. He has the capability of hitting big shots. Filipowski, to me, they're just looking for one other player. And I know McCain hits some tough shots. He is a heck of a player. I just feel like there's going to be some growth from one of their players that's going to break out and really, I think, take this team to the next level. I just don't think they've reached their potential. That's why I was a little nervous, because I thought they might come into the Smith Center and show what they could be against us. But no, we bounced back after our loss to Georgia Tech, and it was a big win. They played great.
What did you think,
John,
Tyler, of the –
Davis having a
Go ahead, Rob. Yeah, you're fine.
Go
ahead, Rob.
Davis how about him having a bad night and finishing with 17 points, 5 assists, and no turnovers? That we've reached the point in the RJ Davis career arc where 17 points, 5 assists, and no turnovers is like his off night. But I wanted to circle back on Armando Bacot, because I think that Tyler made a great point in that that's kind of been something that we've questioned with this team this season, right? Mm-hmm. What happens when your guards aren't playing great? Why isn't Armando being more aggressive? Why isn't he look like the All-American? Why not this? Why not that? Well, in what was the biggest game of their season to date, up against their biggest rival, against a team that doesn't really have a 5-man that can slow him down, I think Hubert made a point to be able to run stuff through him and get the ball to him in the post. And he delivered 25 points, 10 boards, 5 assists, 10 of 13 from the floor. Like, I thought he was terrific today. And I thought that he really kind of showed everyone, hey, you know what? I may not be putting up these monster numbers, but I'm still the Armando that I was when we made that run to the national title. So I was really, really impressed with him, and it was nice to see.
Yeah, Armando, sometimes he goes through these spurts where, he's just kind of out there. He's not putting up the best numbers, and all of a sudden a big game comes, and he just dominates, and he shows, hey, listen, I'm still Armando. I can still do these things. And, yeah, it did. I don't think that Duke had an answer for him. Filipowski would gotten a little bit of foul trouble late, and, Flip has really that was a great matchup because I feel like he's a very dynamic big, and Armando's traditionally a down low, bang, strong center. So it was a good mismatch from that aspect of two different styles of bigs going at each other. But I don't think Duke had an answer for Armando. And even Ryan Young, he came in, he tried to give him some fouls and, when Flip needed a little bit of a breather. But Armando was too much for him. And also Harrison Ingram, he dominated the game from a physicality aspect as well. I just felt like we were a much more physical team. And you look at, Ingram had 13 boards as well. He's one of those guys that can he can get some rebounds too. And, I thought that was a big factor as well.
I got to think, at this point, if there was any doubt, I really don't think there was, but UNC cleared number 1 seed, right? There's a whole season left to play out, but if there was any doubt about it, because I saw last number 1 seed coming into today, right? They've submitted that status, right? Anybody have any arguments against it at this point? That to me, they have a lot of room to still climb.
We could still trick it off, so I don't want to sit there and say, hey, it's a done deal, the reason I say that is because I lived through last year, and I don't want to put any expectations on this team. They're heading in the right direction. I do believe that they're going to get better as the season goes on. I think Cormac Ryan's one of those guys that can add more scoring. He does a lot. for this team from a leadership aspect, and his spirit and defense. He plays hard. I think he's going to be one of those guys that can add some scoring, but also Jalen Washington's one of those guys that still has the capability of developing and getting better and better. But to your point, I've always said this: Purdue and UConn, they've separated themselves. They're the only teams in college right now that, to me, are for sure fire locks for number 1 seeds. And you could start to make an argument for Kansas, us, Houston, obviously, because these analytic people, they're going to dominate everything pretty soon, and I hate it. But I would say we're still, in that mix.
Yeah.
Hey, Tyler, Elliot Cadeau. How was he tonight, and do you worry about him at all not being much of a threat as far as scoring the basketball? He's been better lately, but if I said to you, other than defense, because they've proven that they're tougher and good defensively, what is the biggest thing you worry about with this Carolina team?
For me, and my guy T.O. talked about it, I think teams that have big physical guards, I think that makes us vulnerable. You look at UConn, they're a big physical guard-oriented team as well, and they dominate us. And if you have the lineup, Seth Trimble, then you have Cadeau and RJ. Those guys aren't the biggest, tallest, strongest guys out there. They're very good and very effective at what they do, but they don't have the length or the height to really compete with a lot of teams if they have big guards that have size and physicality. I think early on in the year we struggled with rebounding, and I think Ingram has really picked up his role when it comes to rebounding. Has really provided us with some relief there. But that's what scares me: teams that have big physical guards that can beat us up on the boards.
Hey, Jeff, I have a question for you because, and I know, obviously you're going for the Guinness Book of World Records for most time in one stadium, which I believe you're within an hour. You're within an hour of the record. So if you need anything, let Trevor and Dagan know. We'll get something in the stadium for you.
I can guarantee Tyler spent more time on that court behind him in a day than I've spent here today. I've been here since I've probably been here, I don't know, about 11 hours. I guarantee.
He played. I don't know if you're aware of that. He played the team.
I know,
right?
But what I'm saying is,
around and walk through.
Tyler would be there after a game. He'd be there relentlessly working. Hey, Tyler, give me the funniest thing that happened to you today while you were being honored and you got in the Hall of Fame. I thought I saw Bobby Frazier back there. He's probably waiting for you right now to go out and have a few beers.
Hey, they're all waiting on me. But I will say, you gotta proceed with caution nowadays. I'm much older. I'm not in college. The recovery process seems like a marathon. So, it's one of those things where, guys, we'll go out, but, we start to hit the 30s and get a little.
You're not going to rip it up? You're not going to rip it up on Franklin Street tonight. Come on.
Jeff, I'll be out there. I'm just going to have to deal with it. I haven't learned my lesson. I still haven't learned my lesson. I'm looking forward to it. So,
are you going to go to the same? Are you going to the same? Go ahead, Rob.
Do they honor you at every single North Carolina game? Because I feel like every time I put on a North Carolina game, they're honoring you.
Listen, Rob, Rob, this is the first game I went to that I wasn't working the radio. So, and there's a reason, because I don't want to be that alum that goes to every game and there's everyone feels obligated to clap for me. So there's a reason why I come to the limited amount of games.
Well, North Carolina put on a show for you. They got the job done tonight in a very meaningful game, and in a game that's going to very much help their resume. Look, we got a lot more to get to. The Tennessee big man had the Hansbrough eyes. He had the Psycho T eyes on Kentucky. Tennessee gets the win in Rupp. We'll talk about that when we get back. You watch the Field of 68 after dark.
As you guys know by now, we've partnered with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 each and every week of the college basketball season. We have a special offer that will be available starting on Tuesday, January 9th and running through Monday, February 12th, the morning after Super Bowl 58. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, in honor of the big game, you can use the bonus code FIELD158 and you'll get $158 in free bets on your first wager with BetMGM, regardless of whether or not you win that first bet. Here's how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app. Sign up using the bonus code FIELD158. Deposit at least $5 and place your first wager on any game. You'll receive $158 in bonus bets regardless of the outcome of your bet. Just make sure that you use that bonus code FIELD158 when you sign up. And remember, BetMGM is now available under one wallet in select states. As a New Jersey resident, this is super convenient when I have to go cover games in New York or Philly, which happens quite a bit. When you cross state borders, you just log into your existing account and fire away. You don't have to create separate accounts in each state. It's easy, it's simple, it's clean. And most importantly, we have some fun stuff coming up for the heart of the college basketball season. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odd boosts, and my favorite, a nice juicy parlay boost. So download the BetMGM app and sign up today. Field 158.
Welcome back to Field of 68 After Dark. We're on Sirius XM. We're on YouTube. We're on X. We are everywhere. I'm John Martin, hosting tonight. Got my guys Rob Dauster from Lexington, Kentucky. Jeff Goodman. Amazingly, this guy's putting in a full American workday at Fog Allen.
No, I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. Like when they're done cleaning.
Hey, you know what? After your week, you really should just sit your ass there for a long time.
The bleachers.
You know?
Yeah,
that actually might be a good
been
career
a week.
move.
It has been a week.
To start covering Kansas. Listen, third of three. These games actually kind of sucked for the most part. You know, you kind of go into it and you're like 3 top 10 matchups. You know, these are short numbers. But, Duke Carolina was really – North Carolina controlled it. Houston, Kansas was a pick-em. Kansas controlled it. And then Kentucky, Tennessee, I think Tennessee was actually the dog, and they controlled this thing. There was never really any doubt. 103 to 92. Tennessee gets the win on the road at Rupp. Rob, you were there. After losing at home to South Carolina, it feels like contextually this belongs in the conversation for best wins of the college basketball season. Does it not?
For Tennessee? I don't know about that, simply because I don't know how good this Kentucky team is right now. Like, it feels like they're missing something. No, here's the thing. Like, they're not playing any.
He doesn't know, Jeff. He doesn't know. He's still trying to find out.
Tennessee. And like this is the play that kind of epitomized everything to me. Like, my biggest thing with this Kentucky team tonight was that every single loose ball Tennessee got, every single second chance opportunity Tennessee came up with, every single time that there was like an effort play that needed to be made to win a ball, to gain possession, to make something happen where you would get the rock back. Tennessee made every single one of those plays. And the one that stood out more than anything was it was right around the 4-minute mark of the first half. And Kentucky had at one point gotten down by 14 points early on in this game and fought all the way back. And they had a couple opportunities to tie the game, to cut it to 1 with open threes that didn't go in. And it was the score was 42-38. And Reed Shepherd steals a ball on a sloppy pass from Santiago Vescovi and knocks it away. And it looks like he's going to kind of go in for an open layup, but bobbles it, loses control. Vescovi dives on the floor, picks it back up, wins the loose ball, throws it ahead to someone else, and they throw up a lob to Josiah Jordan-James, who dunks it. And Kentucky comes down again, and then all of a sudden there was another turnover, and then Tennessee's going down the other way, layup, and all of a sudden it's back to an 8-point lead. And that summarized the entire game to me. And that summarizes what this Kentucky team kind of is right now, where you see the flashes, you see the firepower, you see the moments, but they don't really have that dog that is going to say, like, look, we're not getting run over here. We are getting a stop on this possession. We are going to be able to go and get this defensive rebound. There was a very clear physicality edge, toughness edge. Yep. And I just, when you watch this game, it was completely evident to me which team had talented 19-year-olds and which team had talented 23-year-olds. And that is going to be the problem with Kentucky moving forward, is they just don't have that level of physicality that comes with adult basketball players. These are high school kids that are just turning into college players now. And I don't know how you fix that. And as much fun as it is to watch him, and as good as Robert Dillingham is, and exciting as he is, like when he gets, I was sitting here laughing at the shots that he hit in the first half of this game, because it was just like, what are you doing? Why are you taking? Oh, okay, that's going in too. But there's only so much of that you can do if you're not going to get stops. And as well as he played offensively, he finished with 35 points tonight on 14 of 20, shooting 6 to 8 from 3. He was unbelievable offensively. He probably gave up that many points on the defensive end of the floor between not being able to stop someone, not being able to keep someone in front of him. I mean, Zakai Ziegler had 26 points and 13 assists and was the best guard on the floor by a mile tonight. And that's not going to cut it for Kentucky. And I don't know how you fix that. Like we know what the issue is right now, right? We know where they're great. We know where the problem lies. I don't know if there's a way that you can fix this right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, with them, it's just going to be growing up. And in fairness to them, no DJ Wagner tonight, and I know he sort of does get criticized, but he is a big time player that they were missing tonight. When we're talking about Tennessee, Rob, I feel like Tennessee is the perfect model for what good to great teams should try to be in college basketball in the age of the transfer portal. Because all the guys you mentioned, for the most part, right, are guys that have been in that program for 2-3 years. Zakai Ziegler's been there, for 2-3 years. Josiah Jordan-James been there for, basically his whole career. They went in the portal and they dipped in and they took, Jordan Gainey. They took Dalton Connect, but for the most part, Rick Barnes has continuity on his side. And I feel like this is one of those games where, to your point, yes, it's age. That's a big part of it, but it's also this team has been together in a way that Kentucky's just has not.
Yeah, 100%. And this was the game that kind of made me think, okay, you know what? Maybe I'm not talking about Tennessee enough. Maybe we're not paying enough attention to them as like a national title contender. When you watch, Dalton Connect's been the best player in college basketball for the last like 3.5 weeks, right? He's averaging something like 28, I think it was 28.4 points in SEC play coming into tonight. And Kentucky controlled him pretty well. Like he wasn't very good. He just looked like a regular all SEC guy tonight instead of a dude that is one of the best scorers in the country. And Tennessee still cruised. You got 26 from Josiah Jordan-James, which, by the way, like if he's knocking down 4 or 9 threes, I don't think anybody's going to beat them in college basketball this year. You got obviously the 26 and 13 from Zakai Ziegler, and with what they can be defensively and just how big and physical they are. Like that's the thing, is they've added this guy that can be a game changer for them offensively, and they got back a point guard who is capable of going on the road and putting up 26 and 13 in an environment as crazy as this building was tonight. But they still have those same principles of like physicality and toughness, and they're going to turn the game into a rugby match. It just so happens they're going to turn it into a rugby match, and they can put up 100 points on you if you're not going to play defense on them. So I'm starting to buy into Tennessee now, and Jeff knows this. That means it's time to sell all of your Tennessee stock. Just fade. Because
why are you? Have you ever thought like, why am I such a fucking mush? Like, why am I this way? Have you ever like thought about that? Like, what have you done in like a past life?
You know what it is? It's only Tennessee. I don't know what I did to that state. I don't know what I did to the city of Knoxville. I'm a big fan of Tennessee whiskey.
Only
he's a nationwide mush. He's a nationwide mush.
2 weeks ago, you said Kentucky was clearly the third best team in the country, and right when you said it went like this. Their stock just
that's not good, Rob. Rob, that's like a crystal skull. That's voodoo, man.
Okay, I'm being misquoted here. This is a lie. This is a fake news. This is Jeff Goodman just trying to get back at me because I misquote him intentionally all the time. That is what's happening right here. I will not stand for it. I will not allow this slander to happen. No,
hey, Rob,
it's
Rob, front court wise for Kentucky. Can I ask you something? Bradshaw.
That's literally
lost.
what I was just going to bring up. Go ahead.
Yeah, Bradshaw looks completely lost. Completely lost. Now again, part of it makes sense. He missed all the preseason and the start of the regular season. So he's far behind. Trey Mitchell, we know, isn't very good defensively. And he didn't give him anything offensively tonight. He was not good. This was one of the few games that Trey Mitchell really hasn't given him anything. And Onyenso had like a career last game, but how good is he really, or is he just more of a backup big? Like, I think he's maybe the most important guy on this team, because if he could play like he did in the game where he had like 13 points, I don't know, I think he had like 13, and 8. If he could be that, like, he's a game changer for them defensively. But I don't know, kind of like Big Z, that performance, the debut, was kind of a blip. And, like, now we're seeing you can't get in the court. Is Onyenso somebody that you think they can rely on down the road? Because, again, defensively, they got to get something out of those bigs. They got nothing offensively out of them. I don't care about that so much. I care about what they give them defensively.
Well, the game that you're referring to was the Florida game at home, which was on Tuesday night. And Onyenso had 13 points, 16 rebounds, and 8 blocks in a game where Kentucky allowed 94 points on 80 possessions in overtime to a Florida team that looks like they're probably going to end up being like on like the 10 or 11 seed line, right? So, yes, he played well, but that's not the root of their issues defensively. The root of their issues defensively is that their guards can't keep anybody in front. They can't chase people around screens. They can't do anything against anybody else's backcourt. And as soon as somebody gets a paint touch and the big guys help over, like, there's no rotation. It's just that everybody looks lost. It's not just Aaron Bradshaw. Everybody looks lost defensively. Everyone looks like they're getting beat up physically. Everyone looks like they can't handle having 22 and 23-year-olds push them around, and they don't know the right rotations to make. It just looks like they are a young basketball team that hasn't learned how to play defense yet. And the reason why they look like that is because they are a young basketball team that hasn't learned how to play defense yet. When you have it was Robert Dillingham, Reed Shepherd, Justin Edwards, and Aaron Bradshaw on the floor all together tonight, you have 4 freshmen out there. And those 4 freshmen are talented, and they're all going to be very good basketball players in one day. They're not ready to all play together and be able to be a good defensive basketball
But isn't that
team.
Cal's
That's
fault?
just what it is. And
isn't that Cal's fault?
Yeah, of course it is.
Turn the lights back on.
Of course it is.
Turn the lights on.
Like, he signed up for this at a point when we know experience wins, and he got fortunate to get Trey Mitchell late. Otherwise, honestly, they'd be even younger if Bob Huggins didn't get fired. So ultimately, what the hell is Cal doing then if he's taking a team full of freshmen and expecting them to be further ahead than they are defensively, when most of these guys, let's face it, were guys that wanted to score when we watched them in the circuit, right? Like Dillingham just wants to score. Antonio Reeves really just wants to be their best perimeter defender. And what's that saying? Because he's an average perimeter defender.
Antonio Reeves is not the best perimeter defender. The best perimeter defender is Reed Shepherd, and Reed Shepherd is at his best kind of playing the passing lanes. He's not someone that's going to sit in the stance and like keep the best perimeter players in front of him. He's not great at running around screens. They just aren't, because they're freshmen. Like, that's what it's coming down to right now. And when they get it going and when they're hot, and when you get the nights where Trey Mitchell plays well and Antonio Reeves plays well and Reed Shepherd plays well and Robert Dillingham does what he does tonight, they're going to be very difficult to beat because they could put up 100 on you. But as evidence, what we saw tonight, they could also give up 103 points to teams that aren't known as great offensive teams. They gave up 96 to Georgia. They give up 94 to Florida. Like, that is what's going to be the Achilles heel for this.
Are you out on him? Are you out on Kentucky, Rob? Are you out on Kentucky as a Final Four contender, a Final Four team?
If they defend the way that they've defended for the last 2 weeks, there is no possible way for them to make a Final Four. It's just that simple.
So are you
but I also
out
think
on,
that there's
are
still
you
work for
out
them.
on Kentucky right now as a Final Four team?
If they defend like this, then there is no possible way for them to make a Final Four.
Goodman
John,
wants an answer
That's
from
just
you.
the simple answer.
Look, look. This is how they're defending. This is how they're defending. Do you think they're going to fix it or not? And that's your answer.
I do not think they're going to fix it. I do not think they're going to.
So
fix
you
it.
don't think they're a fight? So you're out.
I do not
you're
think
out.
they fixed it.
Say
He's
it.
out.
Say I'm out,
out
on Kentucky as a Final Four contender.
He's
I want to
out.
hear it from you.
You just said it for me, and we're going to clip that without saying from you at the end, and then there you go. There you go. Look, I'm out on them right now.
They're already turning the lights off on them. They're already getting to the. They're already putting them in the dark.
That's what they did. As soon as I said I'm out on them as a Final Four contender, they shut the lights
they're gonna.
You know what's funny? Now I'm yelling, and people are looking at me from the other part of the stadium. The people down there are looking at me as I'm sitting here yelling. Yeah. They're not a Final Four contender. You're going to get me jumped.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Listen, there were some other games that happened over the course of the day as well. UConn just keeps rolling. How do they do it? We'll talk about it when we get back. You're watching Field of 68 After Dark.
Big news, guys. I am thrilled to announce that we have partnered with Autograph, a company founded by the GOAT himself, Tom Brady. The Autograph fandom app gives you access to the best college hoops content, fan contests, and exclusive rewards like discounted tickets, all for doing the things that diehard fans like you already do, following your favorite team in the news and listening to podcasts just like this one. When Tom, and yes, I am calling him Tom, we're on a first name basis these days, co-founded Autograph, he had one mission in mind: change the fan experience for the better. It works like this. You get all of your college hoops content you want in one place. You get articles from your favorite writers, pods from your favorite hosts, contests from your favorite creators, all on the feeds and the sites that you already enjoy. But instead of having to go to all these different places, it all comes to you in one spot, the Autograph fandom app. But here's the best part. The more content that you consume, the higher you rank in the app. As you consider to level up in status on the app, you can unlock unique rewards curated exclusively for you. So download the free Autograph app in the App Store and use the referral code F68, that's F68, or tap in at the link in the description below or in the podcast app of your choosing to start earning points for doing something as normal as listening to this very podcast. It really is that simple.
Welcome back to Field of 68 After Dark on what was a packed Saturday of college basketball. And I want to just defend a position really quickly. Trevor was giving me a little shit on the fact that I said those games, the 3 top 10 matchups sucked. And the only reason why I say that is because there was no doubt, right, after the first 10 minutes as to who was going to win those games. Like, there wasn't like any drama late, you know. I mean, you knew Carolina was going to win, you knew Kansas was going to win, and you knew that that Tennessee was just a better team in that one. So that's what I mean. Like, whatever, you know. It just they didn't necessarily meet the moment. That's fine. That's fine. It's just one Saturday in college basketball. Life goes on. I'm John Martin here, holding it down with Jeff Goodman, and who some say is the Nick Lachey of college basketball media. I mean, you must really just intimidate people when you walk in with that button-down T-shirt. The show must stop. He doesn't want to address the fashion. That's fine. That's fine. That's all right. Hey, speaking of, you're the best, Rob. You're the best. And there were several other games that happened over the course of the day that we do need to hit before we get to afters here, and that is UConn. UConn, the number 1 team in the country, no Alex Caravan. I mean, I will say this, because I'm monitoring this stuff. After the Caravan news comes out, everybody loves St. John's. That number, I think, closes at 3.5. And like they do, it feels like every time they take the damn floor, they just impose their will. 77-64 over St. John's. Cam Spencer brought him in. How's 23 and 5 3-pointers taste? St. John's. I know it sort of just feels cliche, but how is UConn not the most reliable thing in college basketball right now, Rob?
They're just a machine at this point. And the thing that's scary about it is that we've seen Donovan Cling in the last 2 games really struggle. You know, he had 4 fouls in the first 5 minutes that he played against Providence, and it didn't matter. They still beat Providence by 9 at home, behind 20 points from Steph Castle, who is starting to look like one of their best players, by the way. At St. John's, on the road, raucous environment, Dan Hurley versus Rick Pitino. St. John's trying to prove that they belong back in the Big East and at the big boy table in the Big East. And Donovan McNeal doesn't play well, gets in foul trouble again, isn't really impactful out there. Steph Castle again scores 21, career high back-to-back nights. You got Cam Spencer going for 23, hitting 5 huge threes. Tristan Newton, oh, by the way, quietly going for 18 points, 10 boards, and 7 assists. And they're just inevitable. Like it's a machine. And I don't know what you do to stop them because I don't know where the weakness is, John. Like, honestly, tell me where the weakness is. How do you go about beating this team right now? Because I don't know what you do to go against them.
I've been trying to find it. I can't. I've lost so much money trying to find it, and I can't.
The best thing
I'm just
about
being honest
right now, though.
Just being honest.
Honestly, here's the thing is Castle. Like, he's the difference maker right now because you knew what you had, honestly, with Newton for the most part. You know what you have with Cam Spencer. You kind of know what you're going to get with Kling and Caravan when he's healthy. But I feel like not having Caravan tonight, kind of good because Castle has to step up. And now he's shooting with confidence. Like, that's the crazy part now is, like, Castle's kind of a non-shooter, or at least that's what you heard even from the UConn camp. He is not a non-shooter right now because sometimes it's all about confidence. And right now he's stepping up and taking them.
Yeah.
And, again, if he can make 1 of 3 a game, and I think he made 2 of 2 tonight maybe, it's a difference maker because how do you guard him? Like Stephen Castle, here's the great thing about him. He's an elite defender. He's a ball mover, a really good passer. He's athletic as hell, which is really what they need, big, strong guard, so he can get to the basket and get downhill. And now if he can make shots, like I'm telling you, I look at Stephen Castle and I'm like, shit, maybe he's a top 5 pick in this year's NBA draft.
Yeah. Well, like that's the whole point.
And all he has
Rob,
to do, you're right. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to say like the fact that we're saying Stephon Castle is the weakness of UConn is like, that's insane. Like we're reaching so far down that barrel. Like he was a McDonald's All-American, one of the best players in 2023. Like, that we're reaching pretty far if that's the weakness.
But a lot of these freshmen, John, here's the thing. You're looking around the country, and if you do something on the McDonald's All-Americans, my guess is like half of them haven't done much this year. Well, Castle's on a team that has a chance to win at the highest level, and he's making a huge impact. Yeah, there's guys that, again, like are putting up numbers for crappy teams or mediocre teams,
right.
But Castle is now doing it for the number 1 team in the country. That's unheard of right now for freshmen.
Yes.
Yeah,
Rob,
the thing about him too. Yeah, the thing about him too is that it's not the fact that he's making the threes now, right? Like it's not about whether or not those shots actually go in. What matters is that he's making enough that it becomes something where defenses need to get out and guard him. Because right now, when you look at the UConn's best 5, there's basically 3 guys you got to chase off the line and 2 guys you don't have to chase off the line. And they're kind of running into a little bit of the same issues that they ran into with Andre Jackson last year, where you don't get that room for Kling to be able to rim run and be able to come off those ball screens and find a way to go to the basket and catch a lob because they've just not been guarding Stephen Castle at the 3-point line. Well, if he made 2 tonight, he was 2 for 4 the other night, right? Like in the last 2 weeks, he's actually making threes to the point where defenses are going to have to come out and start challenging that. And if you do that, then all of a sudden you have 4 guys on the perimeter that you can't leave wide open, and that turns all of those ball screens where you have this 7'3" monster rolling to the rim. That makes them that much more dangerous, and the stuff that UConn runs that much more difficult to guard, and that makes them that much better. Like everything works in concert. And the thing that's really impressive to me is, and then we can move on after this, is just the way that they've been able to identify players that fit into what they want to do. And it's not just like the Cam Spencer one they kind of lucked into that a little bit because they didn't end up getting Nick Timberlake, but Tristan Newton finding a way to make him be the effective player that he can be. Because I think, did anyone really think that he was going to be this good transferring into UConn? Seeing Alex Caravan go from being like a top 75, top 80 kid to now being an NBA prospect. Cam Spencer coming out of Rutgers, and now we're like, oh wow, Cam Spencer's the difference maker that could be in UConn goes back to back. Like it's just. It's wild how that staff is able to identify and then utilize the pieces that they bring in. And I don't know how many coaches are as good at kind of figuring out who fits in what they want to do and finding them.
Yeah, no, I think it's fair. Now I think that's probably enough for the 2024 UConn National Championship in February for now. I mean, we have plenty of time to celebrate that, right? That parade. We can have that later. There were a few more games that we do need to hit on before we get out of here tonight, which is Baylor, despite only getting 7 from Jacoby Walter. Good game overall from him, complete game overall, but led by Ray J. Dennis, 18 points. Baylor gets the job done despite Scott Drew being ejected, 70-68. If Rob is saying, Jeff, to sell all the Tennessee shares right now because he likes them, how much of Baylor are you buying right now?
I mean, I like Baylor, but again, I feel like, and I asked Kelvin Sampson this after the game, like in the Big 12, there's just not a lot of separation, and any team can kind of beat any team. You know, as shown by Kansas, again, going down and losing at UCF and losing at West Virginia, coming back and manhandling Houston today. I think Baylor is like a top, 15 to 25 team. I think if they got the right matchups, could they make a run to the Elite Eight? It would have shocked me. No. I think Jacoby Walter's got to get back on track. I think he's hit a little bit of a wall here because, again, he had to kind of carry them early this season as a freshman, and not too many guys were like that. So this was a big win for Baylor because they went through that 3-game losing skid, and now they've rebounded and won a couple in a row. Because in the Big 12, 3-game losing streak could turn into 4, 5, and then you're in trouble in this league.
We're bearing the lead here, guys. Like this was the craziest game that we saw today. Like without a doubt,
it was nuts.
Scott Drew got ejected for having 2 out of the coaching box technicals. You arrested a guy that won the national title 2 years ago for being out of the coaching box. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
Then they could.
I think here's what I think it was about. Hey, Rob.
But then here's the ending. Hold on. Here's the ending. But we didn't even get to the ending. Like the ending of this was utter insanity as well. Baylor comes back and hits a game-winning shot after Iowa State ties it on one end with 9 seconds left. Baylor comes down, takes the lead with 2 seconds left in the clock. Jaden Nunn misses the free throw. Iowa State has no timeouts. The guy lets the ball bounce. They start the clock too early. Ref blows the whistle. They get an out-of-bounds play to be able to get a chance to go win the game that they shouldn't have gotten. It was a free timeout, 1.2 seconds left. They throw it in, pass to Momcilovic, and he knocks down and banks in a 40-foot three. Oh, everyone's going crazy. And then they go back to the monitor for the 27th time in the final 8 seconds of this game, and they wave it off because they didn't get it off in time. Like, this was the craziest, most insane basketball game I've ever seen in my life.
It was a crazy final, man.
Essential reason why I love this freaking sport, man. It was awesome. I'm sorry, Goodman. Go ahead. Say what you got to say about Scott Drew.
I think Scott Drew was just sticking up for his boy Jerome Tang, who had a little tiff with TJ Otzelberger. I think that's all it was here. I'm kidding. I'm kidding, people.
I mean, that's a.
I'm joking.
But do you? Okay. I mean, do you actually have a theory as to why you got? I mean, it does feel crazy that.
I think he just got out of the coach's box. I don't know. Maybe he woke up on the wrong side of the bed today.
I'm asking to eject somebody for. That's insane at home.
It's Mr. Positivity. I mean, you don't.
Right.
You don't, Mr. Positivity.
Yeah, no, that was a crazy end on what was a fun day in college basketball. We're heading to the afters. Follow us on YouTube for Rob Dauster. For Jeff Goodman, I'm John Martin. Thanks for hanging out with us. It's Field of 68 After Dark. Welcome,
John. Yes.
What are you doing? Where are you?
Is this thing on? Welcome to the Field of 68 After. I didn't know if there was like a 40-second thing. I'm used to the last call. You know what I'm saying? So forgive me here. Okay, a little initiation. Jesus, Jeff, calm down a little bit. Take a Pro.
Your wife's due soon.
I'm not rattled at all. I'm not rattled. I'm glad to be here. Look, there are several games we actually didn't get it because in an hour you just don't have that much time, right? You just don't have that much time. No. Obviously, we have to dedicate 15 minutes for Roth to talk about UConn. and so that eats up at least, a third of the show. And so there were several other games that we need to touch on that we didn't. But there are a few questions here. Which teams helped themselves the most today? And there are lots of candidates, in fact. I guess I'll just sort of, open it up in terms of the teams, Jeff, that you thought had a great Saturday in terms of resume, in terms of getting on the right side of the bubble, seeding. Who jumps out to you?
For me, it's Cincinnati. Cincinnati went and got a road win in Lubbock. Do you know how hard that is? United Supermarkets Arena is no joke. One of the toughest places to win right now. And Wes Miller, it's too bad we didn't have Tyler on, because right now Tyler would be smiling from ear to ear.
He called it
about Wes.
He called it, man.
Yeah.
On Thursday, he called
but
that
he calls
win.
everyone.
Big time.
No, but he says if it was
he gets credit, man. He gets credit, okay?
All right, we'll give him credit. But how about, since he's right on the bubble right now, right? And win probably puts him in a really good spot. Today, they need these resume wins. Now, they're going to need Texas Tech to keep winning to make this look even better. But Texas Tech going into the day was atop the Big 12. Now I think it's wide open. It was funny, before the game I was on Kansas radio, and they asked me, they said, all right, what do you think, who wins the league? And I said, honestly, I think it's going to be tie between Kansas and Houston. And I still feel that way, even though Texas Tech looked to be in the driver's seat because they were in first place and they had a bunch of home games. But they just kind of lost. They gave away one of those big road wins that they got, maybe the one against Texas. They gave that away today with a loss at home to Cincy.
Hey, Rob, real quick,
it's
kind of nuts the way that, I guess if you'd have probably sat everybody down before this season started and you just preview conferences, you would say, all right, Cincinnati's going to really struggle because they're going from the AAC to the Big 12. UCF is going to struggle because they're going from the AAC to the Big 12. And both those teams are like UCF knocks off, Oklahoma, and Cincinnati beats Texas. Isn't it kind of nuts the way that these teams have acclimated and performed as well as they have coming from the AAC to the Big 12?
Yeah, and Cincinnati, they could very easily be much better than they are right now. They had a 1-point loss to Texas at home on a Max Asmus buzzer beater. They lost by 3 at Baylor earlier this year. They lost by 4 at home to Oklahoma. They lost by 5 at Kansas. They lost by 4 at West Virginia. They're 7 possessions away from sitting here at 9-0 in the Big 12. And I know it doesn't work that way. I'm just saying, they're not that far away from being a really, really, really good team with a really, really, really strong resume. And it's really impressive to see what Wes Miller has been doing there. I'm going to say my biggest win of the day was the team down in Charlottesville. UVA goes on the road and beats Clemson. It's their best win of the season. It is it's a quad 1 win for them as a team that was I believe they were the last team in our fielding the 68 bracket on Friday, and they go on the road and they pick up a win at Clemson. That's 6 straight wins for UVA. They're 8-3 in the ACC now. They are tied for second place with Duke in the ACC regular season standing. So surprise, surprise, Tony Bennett has found a way to win a whole bunch of games here.
Yeah.
Do I get a chance to answer?
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
South Carolina is the answer.
It's a good one.
Because and the reason why is because we just sort of, it feels like, keep waiting on the letdown. They beat Kentucky, they beat Tennessee at Tennessee, then they get a Georgia team at Georgia, they close as a 2-point underdog, and you're just like, okay, this is the perfect. They're gonna shit the bed basically before Monday. They're not gonna get into the AP top 25, and they win the game, and they win the freaking game, and now they're gonna be ranked in the AP top 25 for the first time in 7 years. Come Monday. Look, they had to. It's a weird existence because you have to almost validate the Kentucky and Tennessee wins by not losing to Georgia, but they did that. And so now, I feel like this South Carolina team is going to be one of those teams that shows up, Elite 8 even. I know that sounds crazy, but they're winning games that they probably just shouldn't be winning. And now they're, 19-3, and they're going to be ranked in the top 25 on Monday. And so I would say just for their perception of that program, they helped themselves the most today.
I got two more, John. I got two more that really helped themselves. One of them tonight was Texas going on the road and beating TCU. Texas is another team that's kind of in that like weird, bubbly kind of a range. And I think I was talking with our guy Stuckey from the Action Network today before this game at Rupp, and we were talking through who are the teams. Yeah, don't worry about it, Goodman. You're not cool enough to know who he is.
You don't know Stuckey? You don't know Stuckey the legend?
You know, no, I got no idea who's Stuckey.
Goodman doesn't know. He's not in the streets like we are, John. Texas is one of those teams where
he's a Fog Allen.
It's hard to
exactly. I can't get to the streets. How can I leave? I'm never going to leave. I don't see streets.
So Texas is one of these teams where I can't figure out like if they're good or they're terrible. And when you go on the road and do things like beat TCU pretty handily too, that's one of the ways to kind of say like, you know what, maybe this team is actually pretty good. And the other one that I want to throw in there, it didn't happen today. It happened last night. Butler goes on the road and beats Creighton 99-98 in a thrilling game where the final minute took, I think, 27 minutes because of all the reviews, which is something that we have to change, and a rant that I will go on at some point. I don't know if tonight's the night for it, but
not tonight.
They were right there on the cut line. They were in a playing game according to our most recent field of the 68 bracket, and they go on the road and they beat Creighton. Like, that is a win that they badly needed, and it is the kind of win that will move them from being right there on the cut line to being in the NCAA tournament, and that could be the difference between them dancing and them heading to the NIT. So credit to Butler, credit to Thad Matta for getting that done.
Hey, Rob, look at Goodman, man. He's looking around. He's worried that like he's gonna get the lights turned off. He's like, I can't take a Rob Dauster rant tonight. I don't have time. He's worried about getting locked in that motherfucker.
I'm gonna grab one of these brooms and help these people. I feel bad. They've been here a long time.
Closest to a broom, brother. Closest to a broom.
Yeah, I'm gonna help out.
Hey, you gotta stop looking around, though, man. You look paranoid.
Hey, I'm gonna give you a couple more. I'm not gonna go long-winded like Dauster, but Auburn at Ole Miss, really good win, road win. SEC, Auburn had kind of fallen off lately. They needed this as kind of a get-right game. Utah versus Colorado, big one for the Utes. If the Utes want to get in the NCAA, Pac-12 is probably going to get 2 teams in. Maybe they get 3. You know, I could see Arizona, Utah, and Colorado all getting in, but this was a big one for Craig Smith and the Utes.
Yes. Look, if I can expound just a little bit on your Auburn point, I was sort of arguing in the group chat about them because, like, I know that they don't have – I think they're 0-4 or actually 1-4 in quad one now. That team is really freaking good. They're gonna beat Alabama on Wednesday. They're gonna pick up some wins here very soon. Like, they're basically being penalized, I think, in the national perception because they lost a neutral game to Baylor and they lost at Alabama by 4 in a rivalry game. It's just a function of their schedule, right? It's just like who they haven't played yet. And that's all going to change.
Like Baylor, they had a chance. It was the first game of the year.
Well, yeah, and they beat the shit out of Indiana. And I know the Indiana is not good, but they beat the shit out of Indiana like that, like by 30.
Everybody beats the shit out of Indiana, John.
I know, but I mean, like, you can't help what happens to a team after you play them, though. Like, that's what I do hate that about college basketball. It's like a team can be performing a certain way when Team A sees them, you're right, but then they could fall off, and then by the time you get to March, it's like, well, that win was no good because they shit the bed, 2 months after you played, even though they were actually great.
State. Like, what if Wichita State goes on a run here, John?
Stop, dude. That is actually disrespectful.
Speaking of which, no, I want to know your thoughts on the biggest shot maybe in Memphis basketball. I don't want to say history, but it's going to be up there. The David Jones game winner today to save Penny Hardaway in his coaching career.
Well, I'll be honest. I could make a case, as we're talking about teams that helped themselves the most today, I can make a case for Memphis because David Jones' game winner prevented us from starting to have incredibly difficult conversations about Penny Hardaway. It's no secret. I'm in Memphis. I cover Memphis. I'm here locally, and it was depressing when they were down 13 in the second half with 8 or 9 minutes to go, and you're seeing the body language, and there's a real butterfly effect where the Wichita State kid makes both free throws there late, and Memphis doesn't make a game winner, and then what? It doesn't change, I think, the message of the season and just the slide and how ugly this has gotten. But it at least does provide, and this is all you ever look for in college basketball and hope for, it's just a little glimmer, right? Just a little glimmer that maybe these guys, if they were down, 13 double digits in the second half, maybe this is the rallying point where they get their shit together. The talent has never been an issue. You don't beat Clemson, you don't beat A&M, you don't beat Virginia, you don't beat the teams that they've beaten by not having talent. It's just, can you motivate that talent? So yeah, I mean, I think David Jones saved Penny Hardaway's ass today. Not just with that game winner, but with a foul and the 3-point shot. I mean, those guys dug in. And look, I'm glad we're not having that discussion today. There is a two-sided.
That would have been the worst.
Though.
That would have been the worst loss of the day. Like, honestly, that would have been the worst loss of the day.
They closed minus 10. Yeah, I mean, and they've been making a habit out of shitty losses, but. Yeah, you can't go. The last time Memphis basketball lost 5 games, it was Johnny Jones. The next year, they hired John Calipari. So 24 years ago, you can't do that at a program like Memphis. But there are two sides to the coin. You help yourself on a loaded Saturday. You hurt yourself on a loaded Saturday. So Rob, who hurt themselves the most today?
Well, it didn't. It already really wasn't much of they didn't really have much going for them. But I just, for the life of me, I don't understand what is going on with this Arkansas team and how it's gotten to this point. And they have the talent, they have the pieces, they have the players. Like, they have a coach that knows what he's doing. Like, it's not like Muss has forgotten how to coach the game of basketball, but they hit 20-pieced at LSU, and it just, you see the players are yelling at Muss, and Muss is yelling at the players, and that clip went viral of Mekhi Mitchell cussing him out and spitting all over everybody as he was doing it, and it's a mess there in Fayetteville, man. And I don't know what is it makes no sense. I don't get it. I don't understand how it's gotten to this point. Like, we knew that this roster wasn't put together great, but I did not expect it to get to this point. So I just wanted to get that out there first and foremost. Second, I'm going to say Kansas State took the worst loss today. They go on the road to Oklahoma State, where there were probably more Kansas State fans in the crowd than Oklahoma State fans, and they lose to the Pokes, who were 1-7 in the league and are under 500. And it's Jerome Tang struck gold in the portal last year, landing Marquise Noel and Keontae Johnson. And this year, like, Tyler Perry just is not, like, he's not quite there, and I don't know. It's not working with Kansas State.
It's just his opinion, Rob. It's his opinion.
I'm going to text Chris Dyson and ask him to cut you off. We got to cut you off, man.
I haven't even drank much. I had 1 beer when I went to down the street for dinner. No, the right answer here is Clemson. The right answer is Clemson. They lost at home to Virginia. And Clemson now started the season 11-1.
It can't be the best win and the worst loss. That's against the rules of the game.
No, it's not. You're absolutely wrong, because a coach that just 3 weeks ago we were talking about not being the third best team in the league, and we know he's on the hot seat, right? We know Brad Burnell every year. I mean, it's the Brad Burnell ultimately. They're 11-1, and now they're 3-6 in their last 9 games. And again, the wins are what? Boston College, Louisville, and Florida State at home. Clemson is quickly taking themselves out of the NCAA tournament, which ultimately is going to cost Brad Burnell his job if that happens again. He saved it last year despite not getting in the – remember, they did this last year. They did almost the same thing a year ago. So that is the worst loss because of the overall implications of it, Rob. Not just
I don't necessarily think that the two aren't, and can't be mutually exclusive. I mean, Virginia was a 4.5-point underdog on the road. It was a great win. The team that was favored took a fucking bad loss. It's a zero-sum game in the end, right? For somebody to have a great win, somebody has to take a shitty loss. Is that fair?
Yeah, it is. I got another one for you. That's the actual correct answer. Now that I've kind of thought about the question,
We're just arguing about who's
came
wrong
on
and
here
who's
and
not.
prepared.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just scrolling through the box scores now because I was not aware that this was going to be part of the plan tonight, so I'm not prepared. I'm doing my homework on the fly. Northwestern going on the road and losing at Minnesota in overtime that's not a good one for I mean, look, I really like this Northwestern team, right? Because they have really good guards. And how do you find a way to be able to make a run in March, right? As someone that's like a 10 or 11 seed, you have really good guards that can go out there and make some plays. And Boo Booey is the guy that can give you like 35 and 10 out of nowhere. And he's the guy that could take Northwestern to a Sweet 16 if they get into the NCAA tournament. And that's looking like more of an if than anything else right now, which is kind of crazy if you think about it, because they got the win over Purdue, you know? Yes.
They beat Illinois.
They beat
Illinois as
yes,
well.
if you beat Illinois, if you beat Illinois and Purdue, you got to get in. And
can I give you one more?
Chicago State is.
Can I give you one more? And
if it's correct. Only if it's correct. And if it's not, save that shit.
Indiana was up handily against Penn State at home at Assembly Hall. Maybe as big of a home court advantage there is not named where I am in Cameron Indoor Stadium, Fog Allen or Cameron. And they lost. They blew a big lead, and they got blown out at home by Penn State without their best scorer, without their best player, Cleary, and their leading scorer. It is an embarrassment now what has gone on in Bloomington with that program. And, again, like Mike Woodson's probably going to have one more year to try to figure this thing out and use that NIL the right way to get some shooters and dudes who can win some games, because right now it is not going well in Bloomington. And this was the low point of the Mike Woodson era today.
Yeah, I mean, I think that probably, because I don't necessarily know if anybody like truly tanked their tournament stock. And I know Indiana's not on that, but it's like that's a program. That's starting to be a program thing.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
That's starting to be bigger than just whether or not they're going to get in, which they are obviously on the wrong side anyway. It's like now, what the hell are we going to do?
What do we do?
Right.
Yes.
That is the by far.
Here's the hard part, too, John.
Position.
The hard part is he's one of their own, kind of like Juwan Howard, right? Juwan Howard with Jalen Rose and all those guys. They don't want him gone. Well, Quinn Buckner, when Quinn Buckner says that it's okay to make a move on Mike Woodson, that's when AD Scott Dolson will probably make a move on Mike Woodson. Until then, he's going to get another year unless Mike Woodson goes to Dolson and says, hey, you know what? I've had it. I'm 60, whatever he is now, 66 years old, and I'm out. I'm not getting it done.
I got a question for you guys. So Louisville's probably going to end up opening, right? If things continue this direction, Indiana's probably going to end up opening. If the rest of the Kentucky season plays out the way that it looks like it's going to play out, right? Like, will there be a chance that this Kentucky?
Are you going to go there
as well? I'm just saying.
What?
Just think about it like this.
Is he stepping down? Is he like what?
Like a 4 seed?
Jeff,
what are you doing? Like last year when Calipari was terrible.
He's at Rupp. He's saying this, by the way. At Rupp.
That was legit. At Rupp. I hope they heard you. I hope Cal comes up there and kicks your ass right now.
It's not going to be Cal.
It's going to be everybody. All right, what? Go ahead.
Come
Finish
on,
your
Rob.
thought.
Come
Finish
on,
your thought.
Rob. Come back.
Can I talk? Am I allowed to talk now?
Yes, you can talk.
So my
ahead.
question is, if of those 3 jobs, if you could have the pick of them, which job are you taking?
Kentucky. Period. Not even close. Not even close.
I could make the argument. For Louisville.
No, you can't. No, you can't.
Yes, you can.
You can't. No, you can't. Yes, you're the little brother still. You're not getting the best players in the state. You're not getting them.
It's fine.
You're in the ACC. It's like a mid-major league right now.
Which makes it all the better. Like, you got a better chance to win it.
No, Kentucky's won. Kentucky's won. Then there's an argument between Indiana and Louisville. Then there's an argument between those two. Kentucky's clearly won. Unless you can't deal with pressure.
Is that the one? Was that the one that you would want, though? That's what I'm asking you. I'm not saying that
Hell
it's
yeah.
the best job.
Hell yeah.
The best job.
You would want as a he's not factoring in quality of life, Rob. He's really not. He can't possibly be.
What do you mean?
Well, anything's
hard.
better than the quality of life he has right now living in Fog Allen Fieldhouse. So
I love my life.
He's got the run of the place.
I love it. Everybody's out. I'm going to start doing sprints up and down Fog Allen. You're going to watch me. I'm going to do sprints. I'm going to do suicides. I'm going to do suicides when we're done. Ready? I might start doing them right now. In fact, I might just start running.
All right.
There's no way that you can run. There's no way you can do a suicide. There's no way you can do a suicide right now.
There's a lot of kids watching.
There's no possible.
It's good.
There's no possible way you can do it.
Get somebody to film that. It'd be great.
Yeah, there's no possible.
I hope you guys are okay. I hope you guys can figure this all out between you two after the show. Do you guys have any toasts of the night that you would like to give before we get out of here?
Go ahead, Bobby.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Bobby, you can go first. I'm going to go Alabama. I'm going to go Alabama then. If you want me to go first, I'm going to go Alabama. They beat the living hell out of Mississippi State. They haven't had a lot of big resume wins. I know I can go, but we've talked about a bunch of other teams already. I wanted to hit on somebody that we haven't talked about. So I'm going to go with Bama overall with a big win today over Mississippi State team, just the way they beat them.
I'm going to head to the Mountain West. I'm going to head to Viejas Arena. I'm going to head to San Diego State. Yeah, I would love to head to San Diego State, who knocked off Utah State. And the Aggies kind of got their first wake-up call this season in the Mountain West. Heading into today, they had actually played the easiest schedule of all of the Mountain West teams in league play to date. And then you go on the road, you go to the show, you go to Viejas, you get a little bit of a wake-up call. And that San Diego State team might have been 2 games out of first place, but they are still the team to be reckoned with in that conference. So, but look, the end of the day, that's a fun league, man. They have 6 teams in the top 56 on KenPom, 5 teams in the top 45. And I do think that they'll probably end up getting 5 or 6 bids in the NCAA tournament, and I think that's a good thing for the sport, man. I want more Mountain West. Give me more Mountain West. I'm here for the Mountain West.
I'll cheers to that. Am I the only one drinking tonight? Yeah, I guess they haven't given Jeff any water or any kind of sustenance down there.
I'm dying here.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna give a toast to Johnny Dawkins. Johnny Dawkins was very much on the seat. Right? Where is that program going? He's been there for, it's kind of stagnated. You had that run there in 2019 and you moved to the Big 12. It wasn't looking good in the AAC. How is that transition going to go in the Big 12? He's already beaten Oklahoma. He's already beaten Texas. He's already beaten Kansas in his first season. So I gotta give it up for Johnny Dawkins after a win against a ranked Oklahoma team tonight. A lot of people question him, and this dude has been at a high level, as high a level you can expect him to be in that transition year. So I will definitely drink to Johnny Dawkins for sure. A very classy man, as you two know. So, yes,
cheers.
Toast to Johnny Dawkins.
Toast to
all right,
the
boys.
Cleanup crew is leaving, in case you didn't know.
How's your cleanup crew, Rob? Are they doing the job? They getting it done? Unlike Cal?
There they are.
Yeah, they're getting the job done. They are not going to be let go at the end of the season like John Calipari.
All right. Well, look, appreciate everybody joining us tonight. Rob, Jeff, get back safely. It's been fun. Thanks for sticking with us here on a Saturday night here on Field of 68 on the After Dark and after.
Rob, watch your way on the way out, Rob. Watch your way on the way out. Cal knows. He knows you're calling for his head here.
He knows all.
Well,
all right,
Kentucky
boys.
fans,
have a good night.
The Kentucky fans in the building got my back on that one.
See you.